I encourage everyone to take a moment and breathe and take a tea cheers with a Jiri tea. A Jiri tea recognizes the beauty in shared stories and shared opportunities. Ajiri sources award-winning tea from Kenya, employs women in the region to handcraft the labels, and sends 100% of the profits back to the region to support orphan education. Save 10% on your order of Kenyan teas and coffee with the code BEAUTIFULLYHUMAN at ajiritea.com. AJIRIT.com. Tea mugs up.
That's awesome. Awesome. So how you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you reaching out. It was cool that website got me quite a few people reaching out. So that was really rad. I've actually started to really enjoy. I started it off like speaking to friends and people that I had met traveling. So, acquaintances too. But I love talking to perfect strangers. I think it's pretty rad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to meet new people. I'm that type of person too.
Yeah, and especially in this environment that we're living in right now with the pandemic, it's nice to connect with new people. And I mean, this is the newest way to do it is over Zoom calls or Google Hangouts. So it's cool, man. It's good to meet you. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so I wanted to ask you about. I know you have the DJ stuff going on. What I wanted to ask you about, and you sent it in your original email to me, is you said you're studying forensic psychology.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
That's my passion, my joy. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a doctor, and it didn't work out. My brother and I, we grew up pretty abused, so we didn't have the type of parents that were very encouraging or education driven, those type of individuals. My wife and I, we're big on education with our kids, and we got them disciplined. And they're on a proper schedule. They know the value of education. That's my point, right? I really think it's probably one of the most important things in life. You need to be educated. Otherwise, if not, you end up believing crazy conspiracy theories, or you just believe whatever it is you want to believe. And
yes,
that's okay if you're making a song, but not if you're trying to live a normal life or get a job or pay taxes, right?
Yes.
So that doesn't work. So, but my wife and I, we own about 22 mental health clinics all throughout Ontario, Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's the clinical director. She's a registered psychotherapist and a life coach. And she gives supervision to, I think we have, I don't even remember. I think we've got like 20, 30 therapists that work for us. So she's super busy. I used to run the day-to-day affairs, but the clinic, what happened was the clinic was so successful that I had to take time off of school to help out.
Gotcha.
So I was helping her run the day-to-day options, but I was just patiently waiting to kind of get back to class.
Right.
And so, I mean, but why am I in it? What is it about it? I mean, obviously our lives are very mental health oriented and based. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But I love why people do the things that they do or trying to figure it out. I love, and I don't, I've done a lot of case studies and internships and stuff like that through the clinic and other opportunities. But I really, really like and enjoy the worst of the worst, like the most bizarre, insane stories. And again, all of those stories are horrible, right? They usually end up with murder or rape or, just something terrible.
Right.
But for some reason, I have a stomach for it. Like I'm fascinated to talk to an individual who can drop his kids off at school, kiss his wife goodbye, and then go in the basement and plan a terrorist attack.
Right.
Right? And totally just kill as many people as possible. Like, how does that brain live within the same brain? Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And when you hear the justifications and the things that they're saying, I'm just amazed. I'm glad they're incarcerated. That's all I can say. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really happy you're not walking around because that's not okay, right?
Right.
But we need people like that. We need people to study these individuals. We need people to help the FBI and the RCMP and throughout the world. We need people to tell the cops, this is the type of person you're looking for, you know, when they can't find them. And I'm hoping one day, you know, I have the opportunity to work with the police department and the RCMP. I hope one day they'll think of me and say, hey, you got a really messed up case. We need to call Dr. B. So,
Yeah. I mean, it is truly fascinating, and I think it's really beautiful the way you're approaching it with the mental health aspect. You know, it's like there is something in some humans that, yeah, like how how do you, yeah, take your kid to work? Like, how do you function on these normal levels, and then all of a sudden, yeah,
yeah.
you're off like doing
And
a
justify it too.
shooting,
And totally justify it.
right?
Right? Like they believe I'm right, right? Like you can't tell them they're wrong. It is completely justified.
Yeah,
That's what really perplexes me. I mean, you have kids, but you're gonna go kill a bunch of kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand, like being a father myself, how you can see the birth of your own child, hold the child in your hands,
right.
raise a child every day, and then kind of disassociate the same bond and love that other families have for their own kids. Like, I don't get it. You
Yeah,
know, I
no,
don't get it.
it doesn't. It makes not one bit of sense to me. But I mean, I am fascinated.
Yeah.
I was always the person watching Investigation Discovery, and just like I'm fascinated by it. So I'm glad there's, you know, I know there's many more
A
people
lot
out
of
there
people are.
that are
The shows
fascinated by it.
are,
What's that?
yeah, the shows are super popular, man.
And you know, it's just it's a look into something that's so different. You know, it's a world I just don't get, you know. And it was like, you know, for example, I live
Yeah.
in Nashville, Tennessee, and we had a bombing on Christmas. You know, one guy parked
Yeah, that
his,
was, I saw it on TV. That's crazy. That was totally nuts.
yeah, and you know, like all this time that I've been talking to people about it, and they're like, you know, what would set him off? And I'm like, literally could have been anything, you know, like literally anything. And that's the fascinating
Yeah.
part about it, is like with someone that has the capacity for that, yeah, it's literally like that person looked at me, today's the day, you know, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and
Somebody
how,
could have just, yeah, somebody could have just cut them off in traffic or
right.
cut in line for coffee, right? Or, I mean,
Man.
totally.
Well, that's so cool. So when did you and your wife started all these clinics, or did you, how, tell me the story of that.
Well, what happened was she started the clinic on her own. I was in school to be a doctor's assistant. When I first started going back to school, um, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be a doctor. So I said, let me go to college. I went to college. I became a doctor's assistant, and halfway through the program, I realized, okay, this isn't enough for me. Like, I don't want to be an assistant. I knew I didn't want to be a nurse or anything. Like, I want to be a doctor. So as I was doing that, she was starting off the mental health clinic, and we started off with one location, and it just got busy really quick. And she started doing well, and one opportunity led to another. Now she appears on the radio on Flow 93.5 in Toronto. It's a 24-hour hip hop station in Canada. It's the only one in Canada.
Wow.
But she appears on the morning show. She's been on there 4 or 5 times now. So they constantly keep calling her back, which is exciting. Oh, she's gonna be. This is super cool. I just found out 2 weeks ago she's gonna be in a Netflix special about mental health and what's going on with COVID and everything like that. So I was totally freaking out. Like I made her big special dinner and got her like champagne and everything. I mean, that's huge. I was like, you're gonna be in freaking Netflix, man. That's amazing.
Shit is awesome. Right? That's super cool. You'll have to keep me posted, so when I post this, I can like add some links. But I also want to know, because like mental health is a big part of what I am passionate about, because I work in the music industry, you know, and I've been touring for 15 years, and this year obviously has been a monster challenge. Like, not just this year has mental health become a challenge for people that are on the road, but like this year especially, when people's identities, people's livelihoods were stripped away from them, mental health has been a monster issue for people in my industry, like in the music
But
industry.
let me ask you something. But what's behind the scenes? Like, what's really the talk? What's really everybody going through? Because a lot of people I follow, I see they're touring and doing shows and DJs and stuff like that. Like, what's it like for you, and what are you hearing about from your colleagues, and
Well,
is everybody coping with it?
I mean, shit, this year, it's a lot of it when you're on the road, like it's such a balance. Like it's such a hard balance between like just the sheer joy of doing what we're doing and putting on these shows for people and making people's nights and lives by putting these shows on, but also, you're giving up like normal relationships. You're giving up,
Yeah,
going to weddings, or, you're giving up a lot.
yeah,
And then like as many people as are on your crew, I mean, it's really lonely out there. So I see a ton of depression, a ton of alcoholism,
oh
drug
wow,
abuse. I'm 28 months sober, and
oh congratulations.
I drank myself to my deathbed 28 months ago. And, most of it was done on tour. I started drinking when I was on tour, and then I took it to a massive point. And, it's all on me. And, it's like in that world, it's not a peer pressure world. It's not like, hey, Nick, you should drink this. It's like
Yeah,
do what you do and get your work done. And then anything else is just what you do, And so it just, I took it to a massive extreme, but there's so much of that because you're
right.
alienated, you're away from your families, you're away from your friends. The most common question you get when you're on tour is, hey man, where you at? Where you at today? And then you're meeting
Yeah,
all these strangers, but like, it just takes those normal relationships and, it just, it's tough. It's really, it's a joyful place, but it's also a really dark place. And, a lot of people get tied up in like what band they work for because it's a cool, it's cool or whatever. Like so many
mm,
people get that identity from who they're touring with. And then this year when it got stripped away with COVID and everyone went home, I mean, I've seen so many people starting businesses, like having to pivot
yeah,
obviously because like there's still no
yeah,
real end in sight or like start time in sight of when we're going to get back to music.
yeah. We
So,
don't know. Yeah,
it's it's been tough for a lot of people, like really tough. I mean, I've talked to a ton of my friends and it's been a massive issue. I mean, there's been a lot of people that I know and, from friends of friends, the suicide has been a big issue this year for touring crew. And I'm sure
wow,
I'm sure all over the world in every industry, but like I'm speaking just specifically from what I know with my industry that
right,
I've worked in for so long.
right, right. Well, congratulations on your sobriety.
Thank you, man.
I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it sounds like you learned a lot, and it sounds like you're a better person for it. So,
Yes,
you know,
I wouldn't change it. As crazy as it sounds, like all the crazy shit that I put myself through and like literally being on my deathbed, I wouldn't change it. It
yeah,
was what it was, and yeah, it taught me, to love every inch of life and just to, to just grow and be a person that inspires people and shares stories. I mean, it's a big reason why I like doing this is every person in the
right.
world has a story. It doesn't matter who you
Oh,
are,
for
where you
sure,
come
sure.
from. Your story has
Yeah,
power. It's like
yeah,
I
for
want,
sure.
and I, especially living in this country, and I'm not going to deep dive into my country and the craziness happening because it happens all over the world. But like, there's so much division, and I just want people to look and see, hey man, it doesn't matter where you're from. Like, we're all pretty damn similar. We want the same kind of stuff in life, and you look
Yeah,
past what you look like or where you're from, and we want to be happy. We want to enjoy life, and I'm trying to show that.
but that's the most important thing, right? I'm a Buddhist, and from our point of view, Buddhism teaches you it's the best thing, the most important thing in life is to be happy, right? I've never heard anybody say I want to be miserable.
Right.
No one has ever told me that.
Right.
Right. So I think, and we all have that right. We have to do the things that make us happy, right? I think we also need some balance.
Right.
And that's a really hard thing to achieve and figure out. It took me, I'm still trying to figure it out, you know? So, but at the end of the day, if you can smile, I think that's the best, right? I tell my kids all the time. I said, the most important thing in life is to be happy.
Yeah.
And I said, and you know, and what do we have to do to be happy? And they always look at me and say, smile. And then we smile.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful.
I've been telling you, it's that little thing we've been saying since they were kids. They're 14 and 11 now. But, you know, since they were like 2 and 3, it's when they would get upset or maybe throw a temper tantrum, I would sit with them and say, hey, I know you're upset, but you can be happy. All we have to do is smile. And then I look at them and make a funny face, and then they would laugh. And, you know, we'd hug, and everything would be all right, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think we'd be in a lot better place if we could all resolve our issues in that way. We just smile through it. We give each other hugs. Not right now, of course, but in the general sense of it. I mean, more love and compassion and kindness, man. Like that is what I'm trying to push. That's what I'm saying. That's what I believe.
That's good. That's cool.
How long have you been practicing Buddhism?
I became a Buddhist, I think it was 2007 or 2008. It was a long road, like a long path that I was on. And it started when I was in the music business, we started getting success pretty quickly, and I was very young, and I wasn't happy. I was appreciative. I felt very fortunate. I felt like I couldn't say no because we kind of accidentally got a label deal, right? Like I kind of just fell into it. It was never my intention. I never grew up saying, oh, I want to be this big musician or in the music business. Not at all. It just, one meeting led to another, and we were offered something, and I said yes because I didn't want to be crazy and say no, right? But I did that for almost 5 years, and we worked with people like Swizz Beatz and Just Blaze and Tony Touch and Elephant Man and some really great people, Helter Skelter, and you know, we had some great moments. But I wasn't happy because I felt like I was being taken advantage of the whole time, or people were trying to take advantage of me based on my opinion.
Yeah.
You could relate to this. There's always drugs around and alcohol and stuff. So every day was like a giant music video, you know, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't physically take it. I mean, all the drinking and the smoking of the weed, and like I was breaking down. Now I exercise every day. You know, I'm very big on, you know, being healthy and things like that, especially what I know about anatomy. But back then, I went like 4 years, man, and I didn't exercise at all, like once, right? So you don't do that. You're eating a high-fat diet, like, you know, we're constantly ordering it in, right? So we're getting pizzas. And
of course.
We're eating all night, right? All night long, we should be sleeping.
Yep.
It just took a toll on me. And after I left, I released everybody from the contracts. I said, I'm going back home. And this was all in New York City. When I went back home, my wife and I, we had a successful marketing company. I just found myself with a lot of free time, and I found myself wondering what I was going to do. I found myself asking like really what my purpose is, because I didn't feel like what I did in the music business, like that was my calling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I was searching for something more. Like I was trying to figure some things out. So I started off taking Tai Chi, and I started with meditation, and I found a Kung Fu master in Montreal. And it was a beautiful experience. This guy taught me so much. His name's Master Yang. And we became friends. And we spent hours and hours and hours together. And he's the one that introduced me to Taoism and then Buddhism. And over a period of time, I kind of realized I learned like a lot of different martial arts and things like that. I did it pretty seriously for like 5 years or 7 years, like every day.
Wow.
But then I got to a point where I was like, I just wanted more inner peace. So I had a very close family friend. Her name is Master Joe, and she trained at the Shaolin Temple, I think like 30 years ago. And she introduced me to Wu style Tai Chi.
Okay.
And she taught me Qigong. And I found my happy place with that. And I really enjoy that. Um, and yeah, and then from there, I was kind of, during that whole process, I was trying to figure out, like in Buddhism, obviously there's different types. I mean, you can do Zen Buddhism, or the Chinese have their way, and then whatchamacallit, I'm sorry. It's slipping my mind. Oh, the Tibetan. Sorry, the Tibetan Buddhism is different from the Chinese Buddhism. So, like, I was kind of experimenting, and there's so many different ways to meditate, right? So once
Yeah.
I found what I like, what kind of speaks to me, and what I like to follow, once I figured that out, which is mostly Chinese Buddhism and Tibetan, I follow both of them, and different meditation practices. I was good. I felt like I was on my way. You know, I combined that with some internal kung fu, and I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more at peace. So, and my kids seem to be more at peace too. I taught them some stuff too.
That's
So yeah.
beautiful. I was gonna say I was thinking of, you said your kids' ages, and I was like, that seems to correspond right along the time you found that. So I think that's so I think that's such a good gift
Yeah,
to.
they were babies. They were babies at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a beautiful gift to give a child, is just that like meditative thought of like, you know, be active and be, but be at peace. Like I love thinking about
Yeah.
a child growing up in that environment of like just knowing how to take that deep breath and, like
Calm
experience
down.
it that way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think, I definitely did not grow up in that. So my temper tantrums didn't have any kind of zen aspect to them. I was just like throwing shit around, and I think I would have benefited from knowing how to just be like to breathe through.
Oh yeah, I think everybody can, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't see anything negative about it, right?
right.
And the health aspects that come from it, I mean, that's been documented over and over and over, case study after case study. So yeah, I think we all can benefit from it. But it starts with the parents. If the parents don't know, right, they
Right.
can't teach anybody, right? So I noticed one thing that helped out with our kids, not just calming them down. First of all, we put them in timeout, but we tried not to call it timeout. We tried to tell them, right now you need to meditate.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I would show them how to cross their legs, in a half lotus or full lotus, whichever they prefer. And I showed them how to sit properly and proper back structure. And I would tell them to breathe. And I can't tell you how many times I actually like sat with them and like
Sure.
went over every time and day after day after day. But you know what really helped along with that? Talking to them like little adults. Like
Right.
we never baby talked ever, ever, ever. And I'm not saying anybody who does that, I'm not saying anything negative against you. It's just when you have kids, and assuming you're co-parenting, you have to agree on how to raise these kids, right? And we agreed that, especially with her mental health background, the best way to deal with the kids is just talk to them straight,
Yeah.
right? Be honest, be polite, be courteous, obviously, but don't water it down. Talk to them like you would speak to a 30 or 40-year-old, and they will understand.
Right.
And we had like little 6 and 7-year-olds using like words like I remember one time my daughter said, "Dad," she says, "Daddy, I don't believe that is the correct mentality we should have at the moment." I'm like, looking at her. She's like 6, and I'm like, I looked at my wife and I said, I think we're either doing a really bad job or a really good job.
Yeah. I would say
So
that's good. I would
so with
rather
that,
I would rather have a
yeah,
6-year-old speak to me like that than like some,
like or like
incoherent
maybe your
thing.
finger, right? You don't
Yeah.
want them swearing at you.
Right.
but but I, but I the point I'm trying to make is that type of language requires maturity. In a way, it kind of like forces them to be more mature in that way. Like just in terms of knowing how to speak, being respectful, proper understanding, we can't talk over each other, I'll speak, then you speak, vice versa, and we agree to listen to one another, right?
Yeah.
That requires maturity to do that, right?
For sure.
So you usually don't see little human beings walking around with that level of maturity or speaking in that way, right? So combined with that, with a little bit of meditation and Buddhism, I think you just might have a better weekend, so.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful. I think the most beautiful part about that is how you were saying, like I just have seen friends or like remember when I was put in timeout and it was like, just go. And you're just over there by yourself, like just pissed off and sitting there. And I love that you said that you ended up sitting with them. And I think that is how, I think that's such a beautiful, that's so beautiful to think about is like, okay, you're being punished, but also this is something that we can do together. We can grow in this. Like, so it's not like you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's a learning opportunity from what,
Exactly.
that you can move past and learn to not do this and learn a way to harness that.
Exactly. And understand, right? Like it's like you said, this is a learning moment, but you need to understand what occurred. This was inappropriate.
Yeah.
This is why it's inappropriate, right? And your response to the situation was highly inappropriate. So there's consequences for your behavior. And I told the kids, like, it was so weird because a lot of my friends, when they were like 1, I would speak to them just like this, or 6 months. And they're like, bro, they don't understand you. I said, they understand. They just don't have the verbal capabilities to respond to me in the way, or you in the way that you think they should respond, but they get it, man. Yeah. They get it. Like I could look it in their eyes and I could see they understand. Right? Like you could get it.
Those little brains are sponges at that point. Why do?
They're all...
That's why they say to teach someone a language, do it when they're a kid, because you're learning this language. You're learning all of that. Everything you are doing is something new at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
I know you're up in Canada. Do you speak any other languages?
I speak French.
Okay.
And I speak Greek, but I'm not fluent. I know quite a bit because my wife is Greek. So my family's half Greek. And my mom, hi mom, I love you. My mom is my wife's mom, my mother-in-law.
Okay.
But she'll tell you she adopted me 20 years ago.
I love that.
But we have the best relationship. She literally, when this was maybe 23 years ago, I had big issues. No, more than that. Because I met her, I think I met my wife when I was 18, but we were just friends. But when I was, I think 19, I was living at home and my parents kicked me out and I had no place to go. And my wife and I, we had just started this small business, right? So I was staying in the office. I was like sleeping on the floor. And my mother-in-law found out and she says, what are you doing? She told my wife, she says, what are you doing? You're letting him stay there? Tell him to come stay with us. Right? I'll never forget that. And this is, at the time, my yaya, which is her mom, which means grandmother in Greek, she was there too. She passed away since. But so in her house, it was just her grandmother, her mom, and my wife, Ellie. And it's just been the three of them for decades, right? And for them to invite me into their home and give me a roof over their head, a male, someone they really don't know, right? And they didn't do that. They set up the basement. It was like this mini apartment. I couldn't believe it. I was so blown away by their kindness. They really changed my view of the world because at that time I was angry. I was mad. I'm biracial and I felt like at the time, I felt like it was a really racist time.
Sure.
And I was like a victim of a lot of racism, but I was a young kid and I was just angry. And to get that type of kindness from white people, from Greek people, I wasn't expecting at all.
Yeah.
And I felt like they didn't look at me as like a lot of other people. They just saw Jonathan and they looked at my soul and said, this guy's a nice guy. We're like, what are you talking about? And then they taught me everything about Greek culture. They taught me how to speak Greek. My grandmother, she used to walk with her to the market and used to buy all these different ingredients, and I'd carry it home with her. And she was a crazy old woman, man. This woman was nuts. Bro, this is the only woman I've ever seen in any world. She would gather her groceries, walk up to the cashier, and just give her what she wanted, and then leave. I'm like, yeah, we can't do that. We actually have to pay the price. She's like, "Ela, stamata," which means no, stop, right? She's like, wahi. So, and then she would just go, here, take it, and she'd leave. And I'm like, looking at the cashier. The cashier's looking at me, and she's like, it's fine. She's been coming here for 40 years. It's fine. And so I went home and I told Ellie, I said, do you know what your grandmother's doing at the market? I think the police might come here. We might be arrested. She's like, don't worry, man. We've been doing that forever. Like, this is old news to us.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Oh no, but she was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman. I love it. That like she would tell me, your shirt's dirty. Give me your shirt. Let me do a wash. What are you doing? I'm like, Grandma, stop.
Yeah.
Right? She was I miss her every day. I think about her all the time. Yeah, she's the best. But I married into this family, this beautiful family, and they really changed my outlook on kindness, on empathy, on compassion, right? They were like the first people to really teach me about compassion. And I am so grateful for that. So grateful.
Man, my cheeks hurt right now because I'm smiling so much from that story. Holy hell, that is so good. I love.
I'm glad you liked it.
I love that. I think that's so cool. In so many levels, I love that story because not only was it a time that showed you massive acceptance of a different culture, of all these different things, but then to gain a grandmother like that too. Holy hell! Like those are the stories that I live
Yeah.
for. Like when I travel, those are the people I want to meet. I want to walk past her and her be like, no, come here. I will cook for you. And then we go to the market and she does her trick and gets all the food and then she cooks and then we sit there. Those are like my dream situations when I'm traveling. So I love that it took you from a situation that was really tough and gave you the beauty in life, man, and like to show you that compassion and kindness and acceptance in a time that seemingly was pretty tough for you.
Oh yeah, it was hard, and I really felt bad for my brother. My brother's older than me, but he has a learning disability. So the way we were raised, it affected him in a much more severe way. But all he really needed, and we know now, is just a little bit more encouragement, and he needed to put in more work, and he would have overcame it. But because he didn't receive that type of treatment, and it was literally the opposite, it also affected his maturity level. So in many ways, when I was raised as like the oldest, right? And I was always raised to take care of my brother and make sure when we went out, I came home with him and things like that. So I always felt bad that I had to leave. We shared a room too. So we were, we knew each other pretty well. But the fact that I had to leave him there, it always kind of broke my heart. I would think about him all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, I gained a whole new family. So
yeah.
All I could say is I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, and what a what a cool culture to find yourself in, of like going to the market. And I'm sure did she teach you how to cook?
Oh yeah. I actually became an executive chef. So I used to use all her old recipes,
Yes.
and like she taught me how to make Greek meatballs like the authentic way, and it was really special because my first executive chef job was at a Greek restaurant.
Amazing.
So, you know, my mom would come by and see it, and you know, she talked to me in Greek, and it was nice because she saw me grow, and the fact that I was using her recipes in the restaurant, and you know, it was special. We'd make spanakopita, and you know, I did it exactly her way, right?
Yeah.
And always in the restaurant. So it was they taught me a lot. But the food is definitely something we have all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that you used her recipes, but then I was also thinking like I bet her recipes were 10 times better than the chef before. It's those are authentic recipes. Like you're not going to beat her recipes.
No. They're really great, simple. And Greek cuisine is like that. It's simple, straightforward. There's not like a ton of ingredients or a ton of spices. But I think you need a lot of love just with any type of cuisine. A little patience.
Yeah.
You know, I always like to have like half a glass of wine, you know, when I'm cooking on Sundays. Yeah. And we'd get together. It was nice. We when we started cooking together, we'd have some wine together and we'd put on some music. And by then the only thing I think the Greeks got wrong was the music. I can't stand Greek music, bro. I can't stand it. I would tell my mom all the time. She's like, Ella, Joe, Ella. She's like, da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Mom, stop. I can't take it. I'm like, Mom, I'm still black. Okay, drums. There's no drums. There's no bass, Mom. Like, I can't hang with this.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, you can't have perfection, right? You got everything else. Like there's got to be one weak little part to that.
Yeah. So to this day, my mom still teases me about that. Like, she'll just like crank up the Greek music in the background to drive me nuts.
Oh, I love that.
But she's super supportive, man. Super supportive. She's like my biggest fan. She's always streaming all my songs.
That's so
She's
good.
telling her friends, look at my son. Look. This is my boy.
I love that. I do want to talk to you about music, but I also this brought up a whole different part of what I love to talk about in this podcast is traveling and cultures and just experiencing that and like how valuable that is to a person and their development. And I always like to ask, so where's your favorite place you've traveled to?
I haven't, for me personally, I haven't traveled that much. I've never been to Europe or China, Japan, any of those places. I'm hoping to go there next year. Music-wise, I'm doing very well in Europe.
Nice.
And specifically Paris, Italy, France, Russia. Russia's like my number one streamed country.
Yeah. So listening to your music, I'm not surprised you're doing very well over in those areas.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I was planning on going this year, but you know, with the COVID and everything, you know, that's obviously out the window. But the furthest place I've been to is when I was a kid. I think I was 13. We went to Barbados.
Oh, cool.
That was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Major culture shock.
Major,
because I went to school one day with my cousin. At the time, we were 13. I was 12 or 13. So I go to school with my cousin one day, and you know, I look obviously completely different than everybody else, right? I'm not. They could totally tell there's a new kid in the class, right? Everybody's staring and looking in the back,
right?
So my cousin says, listen, man, don't freak out. And I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, if some stuff happens, just chill out. And I'm like, stuff? What are you talking about, man? He says, well, sometimes we get disciplined. So I know they don't do this in Canada, so just chill. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? What are they about to do? The teacher was beating the kids with a ruler. I'm like, yeah, this is a crime at least.
Right.
Like where I'm from, this is multiple felonies. Like this is insane, right? So that was a major culture shock.
Holy hell, yeah.
But other than that, other than the beatings in the school, everything else was pretty fantastic. My dad, one of the best moments I had with my father is he took me scuba diving.
Oh, cool.
And it was just the two of us. And we went about, I would say 80, 100 feet deep.
Wow.
Right? I mean, I know people do a lot deeper now, but for me, for a 12-year-old kid, I thought that was pretty amazing.
Totally.
And being in Barbados in the ocean, man, to see all these pretty fish, all these colors, it was amazing. It was it's hard to find the words like what I was expressing and feeling. And at that moment, like I was having like a special moment with my dad, you know, and he only took me. He didn't take my brother. He didn't take my sister. He didn't take my mom. And we had a really great day on that day. You know, I don't have like a lot of great days or great moments like that when I was a kid, but that's probably my best memory of my pops.
Man, that's amazing. And you know, to experience something like scuba diving, like you're in a whole different world, man. That's so cool. That's so cool that you got to experience that so young and have that memory with your pops.
Yeah, I loved it. It really was special. I'm hoping one day to do it again, and maybe take my kids.
That would be.
It's on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list to do some scuba diving.
All right, that's a good segue to if there were no travel restrictions, you know, non-COVID times. If I came up to you and I had a plane ticket to anywhere in the world, and I said, "Hey, here's a plane ticket. You can go anywhere in the world. Where would you go?"
Where would I go? That's really hard to say because I haven't been to a lot of places. I haven't been. There's so many places I want to go. I think I would definitely have to take some time pondering on it, but it would either be Tibet or France. And like my family is half French. So, you know, I believe my grandmother, she's from France. So I'd like to maybe kind of look up my roots and experience some of the culture out there.
Yeah.
And as a Buddhist, how can you not want to go to Tibet, right? Like, I mean, I've read so many Tibetan books and journals and videos, and I mean, how can you not want to go? Right. I mean,
well, in my perfect world, I would give you the plane ticket to both. I would say go to France and then make your way to Tibet. In my perfect world, that's how I would play it. One day I long to have that gift. I've said it many times that if I won the lottery, what I would do is I'd call you up and I'd ask you that question. That's kind of what brought that question out from me, is like I've literally always thought, if I win the lottery and I had all the money, I would just call my friends and be like, "Hey, what is the top of your list? Where do you want to go?" And I'd be like, "Rad, bring some people. I'll meet you there and just experience the world." Because I mean,
that is super cool.
Traveling, like I have been severely fortunate to travel for work for 15 years, and then that has led me to want to travel other places. So I've seen a good amount, a decent amount of the world. I have an app that tells me the exact portion of the world that I've seen, and like,
oh wow,
I get sometimes where I'm like, yeah, I've seen so much, and then I put all my travels into this app, and it was like, you've seen 18% of the world, and I'm like, holy shit, there's so much out there.
Yeah, there's so much left.
There's so much left to see. So that's why I love asking that question. Is just, it's always intriguing to see where people want to go and the why they want to go there. You know, like I just think it's so cool, and there's no wrong answer. It's just,
it's a cool question.
It's preference. It is. You know, and like I love that you speak other languages too, because I've always also asked this, which I'll give you this question, is if you had a superpower, and it comes back around once you answer yours, I'll tell you mine. But if you if you were given a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, super intelligence, by far. There's no debate. There's no question. Listen, the strongest man in the room is the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
I don't need to fly. I can make something that will make us fly, right? whatever it is you need, right? Can you imagine having ultimate knowledge?
It would be amazing. That's a fantastic
Or
answer.
imagine plugging the entire internet into your brain. I
Oh
mean,
God.
probably a lot of that information you don't want in there.
I was gonna
but,
say, yeah.
but think about it. I think about that a lot, right? And it kind of would. It's one of the driving forces for me in school. Like, I want to read more. I want to be better. I want to be smarter. I also want to be the best psychologist I can be. You know, and I think my potential patients in the future, they deserve that, right? They deserve. They're coming to see you. They deserve the best. You should
Totally.
give them your best. So
Yeah.
I think it starts now with everything that you're learning, and I'm trying to be really open-minded to it. Like, for example, I'm taking this one class in university. It's called Women's Health. And the whole point of the class is to teach you the history of women and what happened to women, why women are oppressed. We had a 4-hour lecture on the history of women in the legal system.
Yeah.
And the first female lawyer. And the reports that were being made about women, for example, male lawyers would ask female lawyers, quote, "If you lose today in court, are you going to cry?" I'm like, what the? I'm like, they actually used to do that. So the whole point of the class, and then we also get into the Me Too movement and racism, and we did a whole class on the women in NASA from Hidden Figures, the movie.
Yeah.
There was like a 4-hour class just on that. And my goal for taking the class was, I'm going to have female patients in the future.
Yeah.
I want to be able to understand women as much as possible.
For sure.
Because if I understand where they're coming from, if I understand their trials, tribulations, and struggles that they're going through, if I have a better understanding of it, well, I can just treat the patient that much better, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to take classes that are keeping me well-rounded, but giving me different thoughts, views, also challenging my thoughts and views, and making me think of things that I probably wouldn't have thought of before. So, yeah.
No, I think that's beautiful. And I mean, also too, that's amazing knowledge to have to help your daughter's future. I mean, there's a whole world of
I'm raising 2 women.
Yeah. I mean, it is the future of women. We have to know what happened in the past and how terrible it was, and how terrible it still can be. I mean, I think that should be mandatory for people to learn. I mean,
yeah, unfortunately it isn't. And we need better laws. We need better laws. We need more women leaders. If it was up to me, every leader in the world would be a woman. But most of them are guys. We see the planet as is right now. I would say, hey, let's switch.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be any worse. I mean, women are way more empathetic and compassionate and kind, and they'll address all of world issues from that point of view. Right?
Totally.
I think we would have a nicer and kinder world.
100%. 100%.
But what do I know? I'm just some kid from Canada.
I mean, I'm just some kid from the States, but I believe that. I mean, you can look at it at COVID responses this year. I mean, there's countries with women leaders, and they've done far better than other countries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, you can't really argue with that. You can't really argue with that. Like, hey, when presented with a really horrible situation that no one's ever dealt with, who dealt with it the best? And it's the women leaders. So there, I think it proves it.
Definitely, I agree with you, bro. I agree with you.
But I love that your superpower is the ultimate intelligence, because mine is along those lines. But I've always just dreamt of knowing every language in the world. So that kind of goes with yours.
Oh, that is super cool.
So like literally any situation you walk up to any human in the world and ask what language they speak, and then can speak their language. I think that would be just the coolest ever.
That is super cool. That's I never thought of that before, but that is pretty amazing. That is really amazing.
Because I mean, I love traveling. I love getting lost in like going to a cafe in a country that I don't know the language and just getting lost in that language, that beautiful poetry that's going on. And what's
Yeah,
fascinating, this goes back to just like fascination of the mind, which, you know, we started off talking about. What's so cool about that to me is that that language, whatever it may be that they're speaking, connects a whole culture of people. And I don't know any of it.
yeah,
And they do. And that's so
mm,
neat to me that like all these people can communicate.
yeah,
And as simple as you and I are communicating, they're communicating in that language. And it means
yeah,
just what we're talking about. You know, like they fully
yeah,
understand that. That makes sense to them. And I think that's so
yeah.
cool. And I love
It
getting
is pretty
lost in
cool.
it. So I appreciate only for the fact that I just love listening to it, that I don't know it, but I would love to just go into any situation and be able to speak their language.
Oh man, that's yeah, that would be amazing.
Well,
Yeah,
because it, and also it's the ultimate respect, right? You know, like you
yeah,
go to someone else's country and like, fortunately I speak English, so, you know, majority of the world speaks the same language. So I can speak with people,
right.
but just to be able to go to someone's country and speak their language would just be unbelievable. It'd
Yeah,
be so great.
yeah, yeah. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I love that. I love that you you know that you have a couple languages that you can cycle through. That's pretty great.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. We used to trip a lot of people out in the grocery store because they see, you know, a black dad with two black girls, and we're talking Greek, and they're like, "What the hell? What's going on here?"
Yeah.
So, when we were in Montreal, we used to do a lot of grocery shopping at the Greek store. There's a Greek grocery store. It wasn't too far from my house. So it was nice to be able to go in there and, you know, I'm not completely fluent, but, you know, I can get by
Sure.
and, you know, just say a few things and to see the culture. And, you know, everybody looks a specific way and, you know, the meat is cut in a specific way. And it's very, um, it's just very Greek. Obviously, it's a Greek store, but it was just nice to. It was like disappearing into Greece for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying. Like, you know, they had the real authentic olives, but it wasn't just a small little container. They had like massive buckets and containers of like olives like everywhere and stuff. So
Oh
it was
man.
nice. And you would see calamari, you know, the fresh squid. And I got to know the butcher pretty well. So they had like Greek fish all the time. It was nice. It was nice. I miss that place. I haven't found a place like that out here. I'm sure there is, but I just haven't found it.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that you said it. It was like going to Greece for a little bit. I love those
Yeah, and the
moments.
kids would love it. Yeah, the kids would totally love it. So.
So, do your kids speak French and Greek as well?
Um, they, I mean, they they do and they don't. They have we haven't. I've been doing a bad job with Greek, so I haven't spoken to them in Greek in like I would say like a year. So now when I talk to them, they're like, "What? What did you
Yeah.
say? What did you say?" They know it. That we just need to rehearse it, and it
Sure.
comes back to you in like 5 minutes. And they're taking French in school, so they my eldest daughter Kayla, she's pretty fluent in French, and but my youngest Zariah is like her mom. She's very anti-French. She hates French,
Okay.
so so she doesn't really she didn't really take to it too well. She was in French immersion school, and she was having a hard time with it.
Okay.
So we decided, and it was really affecting her self-esteem and her confidence. And she was having a difficulty like with math, like learning math in French. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
the easiest thing,
Yeah.
right? Especially like for me, like I can't do it. Like you need to teach me in English, even though I speak French.
Yeah.
We're not going to get anywhere if you're teaching me math in French. It's
Right.
not going to work.
Yeah.
So we decided to put her into like an all English school, and since then her grades have been gone way up. She's like a straight A student. She's much more confident. Self esteem is high. So with her, it's just English and Greek.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still pretty awesome. But it's
Yeah.
those are also parts of languages that fascinate me. I lived in Denmark with a friend of mine for a couple months in 2019, and he's very fluent in English. But
Oh wow.
when he was speaking English with me, it was the most he had spoken English in quite some time because he's living in Denmark, and I mean he speaks a lot of English, but
Yeah.
he was like, "Man, I know when I'm speaking English a lot because I start to dream in English." And he's like, "It's really fucked up when
Oh
I'm
wow.
when I'm dreaming in a different language." And to me, I was like, "No," like it blew my mind because I never even thought of because like of course I dream in gibberish or unrecognizable tongues or whatever, but like to fully understand what you're dreaming in a different language, I was like, I didn't even think of that. That's something I had no idea. And then when you said doing math
Yeah.
in French, I was like, oh my God, dude, I didn't even think
Yeah.
of that. Like just a simple like 1 + 1 is 2, but like doing that in French, I was like, wow, it adds to the fascination of like the depth of everything that, yeah, all of it.
Yeah. That's super cool. I used to do that too. When I was heavily doing martial arts, I decided to learn Mandarin because my teachers, they all spoke Mandarin and their English was so like broken.
Yeah.
So when I started learning Mandarin and then they started teaching me, like I actually knew more Mandarin than they knew English. Right?
Wow.
So so and I was doing really well, but then I just completely stopped. Like I started a new job and I completely stopped. So now I totally forget everything. But I was learning
Sure.
calligraphy. I even wrote my aunt and uncle, close family friends, like a whole letter in Mandarin. It was super cool. They were so proud of me.
That's
But at
amazing.
that time, I was literally dreaming in Mandarin, right? And like I understood it. I understood. It was trippy.
Yeah.
Even now, sometimes I have dreams in Greek, but like when I'm awake and there's like a lot of words I forget, like I don't remember, and my wife is reminding me like, oh, this means that, this means this. Like I forget, but in my dreams, like I remember everything. And I know, like I could feel like I understand everything that I'm saying. Like it's almost like every Greek word I've ever heard, like it's all there. You know what I mean? And it's like fully present. And then when I wake up, it's all gone. Completely, it's all gone.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, but I remember the dream and I'm like, I remember saying this and that, and we were talking, we had this full conversation. It was like, I was talking to my wife about it, and
That's
she's
so
like,
cool.
she's like, you probably should stop drinking. So yeah, okay.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So I love to ask these two questions. And then we'll segue it into you talking about your music and towards the end here. But what would you want the world to know about you?
Oh. Um, First and foremost, my purpose in life is to help people. And I'm doing that through psychology. I mean, when they put me in the ground, that's what I want them to say. I want them to say, he wasn't just a good dad, he wasn't just a great husband, but he was an accomplished doctor and he helped thousands of people. He saved lives, he made lives better, he made people happy again. There were a lot of people that went to him that were broken, that were suicidal. And because of his treatment, and they connected with him, they walked back from that line. My husband is alive today because of him, or my wife, my daughter. That's really the stamp that I want to leave in the world. I mean, besides the fact that I'm a musician and I think I make pretty good music, to me that's still like third or fourth on the list. You know, Next is I want my kids to remember me as just the best father. I want them to say, when I needed him, he was there, right? Whenever I needed my dad, he was there. We went through some tough times during COVID, and my daughter had like a couple of tough months. But I think being as a father half the job is just showing up.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I hope when they grow up, they remember that. They're like, my dad was there and he tried every day and he tried to be a better father every day, you know, and he spent time with me. And we binge watch cartoons. And, you know, to this day, I brainwashed my kids when they were young to watch Superman and Justice League. And to this day, my daughter still gets excited every time a comic book movie comes out. She's like, Dad, we're going to go see Wonder Woman. And you know what I mean? And we watched it when it came out on VOD.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like people to know. I'm a good father, or at least I think so, you know. And my wife seems to like me still. So I guess I'm a decent husband. And I guess lastly, you know, I would like people to say his music, it's really dope. Like, he's an accomplished musician and his music is here forever for all of us to enjoy. And I like to think that my music makes people happy. You know, I have big stories behind every single one of my songs. They all tell a specific story. But I always like to leave people smiling, happy. You know, my music isn't dark and just, you know what I mean? It gets you going. It gets you grooving. It's party music. It makes you feel good. Yeah. So, sorry, I hope I didn't ramble too much.
It's beautiful, dude. I love it. I feel that from you, man. I feel that connection. I feel that. I mean, you're bringing joy to my life by having this conversation with me.
Oh, thank you, man.
So I truly appreciate that, man. And I know you're putting all that beauty out in the world with your music and just being who you are. So I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Another one is, if you had the ear of everybody in the world, what would you say to them?
How much time do I have?
I mean, really, any amount.
Oh. Any specific topic or anything at all?
Just that, you know, any advice to the world, to the people of the world.
I think I would spread some kindness and some joy. The world seems to be on fire right now. And I think we need more happiness, more kindness, more joy. I know we're all at home. Everybody's locked up in some way, shape, or form, you know, where they feel that way. But there is still so much joy out there. There are so many positive stories that are going on in 2020 and 2021, even though there are so many negative ones. And I can't wait for the movies to come back, because you're going to see a lot of movies, a lot of music, a lot of short stories are going to be written about how people connected during this time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or families that were maybe at war for 10, 20 years, but you know, I made up with my mom or my dad because we were on lockdown and we decided not to kill each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead, we got some wine and made meatballs. I mean, that's so nice. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So I think that's what I would do. I think I'd spread some joy and kindness and hope people would listen, you know, and follow through.
Yeah. Man, I'm with you on that one. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to spread joy. I'm trying to spread this love around of like, hey, man, you can meet a perfect stranger and have a beautiful hour conversation with them and you know, spread a little ripple around the world, you know, like it can be that simple of like meeting that person and understanding them and just chatting with them and seeing where they come from and learning about them and their culture, you know, and that's a beautiful thing. And we need more of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know? All right. So talk to me about this new tune of yours.
Oh, yes. Well, I got a couple of new songs. Which one do you want to talk about? Or do we talk about all of them?
Talk about all of them. But the one specifically that you want, I figure I'll play it after. I'll make everyone listen to our chat, and then we can play your song at the end.
Oh, great. Oh, listen. So it's called Shutdown.
Yep.
It's featuring, I produced it myself, of course. It's featuring this really talented kid. His name's Teezy. His real name's Taiwo Hertz. He lives in Nigeria. And I met Teezy on Instagram, right? He sent me a message one day and something to the effect of, hey, Doc, I'm an artist and I heard your music and, you know, I'd love to collaborate with you. And at the time, I was looking for a singer for my dance record, which was my very first record I released in 2019. It's called All Night. And it features him on it, right? So I listened to his vocals. I'm like, man, this kid would be perfect for the song. So yeah, I said, let's give it a shot. So I tried him out on this song, and he was really professional. And I don't know if people know this, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't professional in the music business. You know, they don't send back the vocals on time, or you never hear back from them, or, you know, they tell you they want to record, and then you find out 6 months later they never even had a microphone. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just like total unprofessionalism. But I was happy with him, and considering he's so young, I'm like, yo, I think I'd like to work with him again. So we ended up recording, I think, 7 songs together.
Oh, rad.
And yeah, and this is one of them, and it's Shutdown. And in terms of the beat, just so for anybody who's curious, when you hear the beat and you hear the main sound, it's that I actually sampled real Buddhist monks in a Montreal temple.
Oh, that's
doing
so
that.
rad.
But every time I was there, I would always hear music. I'm like, the way we meditate and the way we do the prayers, it sounds like music. I'm like, man, someone needs to sample this. This is so cool. So one day, I actually, you know, when no one was looking, and I wasn't supposed to be moving, obviously, but right. I hit record on the recorder and I sampled it. And I said, one day I'm gonna do something crazy with this. And I think I made this beat in 2018. And we recorded it in 2019. Yeah. So I was just able to recently get it mixed, mastered, and everything. So yeah, so now it's coming out on January 29th.
Awesome. I'll have to re-listen to it because I listened to it when you sent it this morning, and now I'm going to listen to it in a whole different way now that I hear the story of it, which is so rad. I love that because I had my first listen, and now I get to listen to it knowing exactly what your mind was behind it. So that's super rad.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's pretty cool. It's cool to look at things from a different perspective and a different point of view. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, because my mind took me to one place, and then I hear where yours was, and you were creating this, and now I get to go back and be like, oh my God, that was genius. So I'm very excited to re-listen to it. I'm excited for everybody to listen to it as well.
I hope everybody likes it and they love it and stream the hell out of it. You know, I really hope so. But I don't think anybody's ever done that before. Well, somebody must have done that before. I mean, there's billions of people in the world. Right. So, but I personally have never heard anything like this. So I wanted to do something really unique but real. Something that, and that's the thing with my music. I really like to put like myself into it, not just, oh, I'm the one who played these instruments or I made it, but some form of like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I like to kind of put like my soul into it. Do you know what I mean? And that was kind of my way of taking something from my life that's a big part of my life and making it current, right? And cool, you know? Yeah. And then we made it into a whole song, right? So yeah, I'm excited about it. TZ loved that. I sent him the final version like a couple of days ago. Awesome. He's freaking out. He's like this 18-year-old kid like doing backflips in his house.
So, I love that. Yeah, even those little bits of joy of just loving that song that you've created. I love that, man. And you're helping spread that around, and then you're getting to share that with the world in your music. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your time with me and just hanging, man. This has been super awesome.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it so much. This was like my best interview this week.
Fantastic.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, brother. I've been looking forward to it. So I look forward to a continued friendship.
Oh, for sure. Let's do this again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. You too. Have a great week.
See you. Bye.
See you. Bye.
One time, let's go. Man, them in the club with the money. Ladies in the mood, so naji. They back up, rewind like a gypsy. Turn around and make a nigga tipsy. Light up the party, no be ordinary. Let them know the boy is so legendary. Straight from Lagos, I be coming like a fireman. No stress, that's original. I give them one time for the records. I give them one time for the moolah. Pull up. man. You know I'm down for the whole night. Vibe hard, keep it 100. Shut down the floor and I jump in the Uber. Then I'll be coming through like a number 10. Toronto, shut down. Chicago, shut down. New York, downtown, we shut down. Nigeria, we shut down. Lagos, we shut down. Germany to Miami, we shut down. DJ Dr. B, you know we shut down. Berlin, Sweden, you know we shut down. Yeah, you know we shut down. Yeah, you know we shut down. Oh, Maryland, Montana, when we shut down, then we cash out for the countdown. No time to the check time. Oh, my sister, me man, I can't shout. Dr. B, happy heavy on the baseline. Party out till we can't walk the straight line. Benny, Lenny, give them the juice and the sauce and the swag and the vibe with the boss, their brain. They do with the boss, brain. They do with the boss. They do with it.
Thank you for listening to the Beautifully Human podcast. To hear more beautiful stories from beautiful humans, follow us on Spotify and rate and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Wanderlust Moon Duo. Peace signs up.